Okay. So we are on the next toolkit notes. This is page 5 in your toolkit, the section rounding. So please go ahead, read through it, underline with a pencil what you think is important, and then come back to us. Okay, this is what I would have highlighted, right? And now when I'm looking at a huge chunk, I don't need to highlight the entire thing unless you want to, you can, right? But then when there's too much highlighting, sometimes it bleeds through the paper, sometimes it's overwhelming. So I just wanted to take that section because we're looking at the how-tos, right? Examples, I never highlight unless you're like, oh, this is a really good example. This helps me understand it better. Then that's up to you. Remember, this is your toolkit. Whatever helps you, you can put it in there. Okay, so to round a number, what you want to do is find the place of which the number will be rounded, right? So sometimes I'll say round to the nearest 10th place. That is the number that you're looking for, right? Then what you want to do is look at the digit one place to the right. So one place next to it, or to the right, this way, right? If this number is 5 or greater, then you add 1 to the place that you're rounding, right? So you're bumping this one up. If this digit is less than 5, then keep the digit in place where you're rounding the same. That's confusing, right? So there's a couple ways that I'm going to explain it to you. And we'll do it this way, okay? So what some phrases that they've taught us is 5 or more, let it soar. Right? When you're soaring, you're going up, right? Supposedly. Okay. 4 or less, let it rest. Right? So these are just little phrases that you can do, right? The other way you can think about this is the analogy that I saw is that if you're walking in the hallway and you have to go to the bathroom, what do? You find the nearest bathroom, right? So if you're walking along the hallway, right? Oops. If you're walking along the hallway, here you are, right? Ooh, and there is a restroom here and a restroom here. Which one are you going to go to? You got to go to the bathroom, right? So obviously you would go to the closest one. You would go to that one, right? Because you're letting it rest. If you were here and the restroom, and here's a restroom, R for restroom, and you're like super close to the next one, what are you going to turn around? No, you just go to the restroom, the closest one, right? And the other question that I hear is, what if you are in the center, right? Here's a restroom, here's a restroom. Which one are you going to go to? Now, when you're in the middle, what are you going to do if you're like walking to class and you're like, oh, shoot, I have to go to the bathroom, right? And you're going towards class. Which one do you go to if you're in the middle? You would go to the one that's closer in your direction that you're going. So then you just go to the closest bathroom. If they're the same distance apart, you just go to where you're going, right? Which is forward. Okay, so let's do some examples when I look at this, right? So I'm going to go through these examples that they're showing first, and then we'll do some on our own, right? So in the example 4,738, 4 is in the thousands place. If you check the hundreds place, 7 is greater than 5, right? So here's the directions that they say, right? Look at the point, right? Look at the number that they want you to round. Then you look at the digit that's to the right of it, right? So going through the examine the digit one place to the right. If it's 5 or greater, then you want to add to the place, right? So if you check the 100 place, 7 is greater than 5. This means that this rounds to 5,000, right? Here are some other examples if you don't get that, because there's a lot of words, right? It says round to the nearest tenths. This is 431 and 6,271 10,000s, right? So I want to round to the nearest tenths. That's what I'm looking for. Look to the digit to the right of that, right? 5 or more, let it soar. 4 or less, let it rest, right? So since 2 is less than 4 or less than 5, right? 4 or less, then you just leave it, right? Then you can drop these. So that's why it's 431 and 6/10. The last one, round 17,389 to the nearest hundreds place. So here's the hundreds place. I'm looking at this. I go to the next digit, right? Is it 5 or more? Yep. So then you round up. Then this would be, instead of 389, this would round to 400, 17,400. Okay. So most of the problems that I'm going to give you is like round to the nearest 10th, right? So if I were to round this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I want to round to the nearest 10th place, right, I look at the 10th place and I go to the digit next to it, right? 5 or more, let it soar, right? Or you're closer to that restroom. So this will go to 123 and 1/10, okay? If not, if it's not that high, so if I had 123 and 400ths, right? And I wanted to round to the nearest tenths, then what I would do is I would still look at the tenths place, check that next number, right? And then this is 4 or less, so I let it rest, which means I don't need this anymore. I got 123. There is 0 tenths. If I ask you for the tenths place, then you have to give me the tenths place, right? Or this is just 123. Okay, we will do some practice, and that is it for this one.